And Afterthoughts returns for its 54th episode, which is great news for the world. I've had a few people recently, and they always start it like this. I don't know how many people watch the podcast, but I really do like it.
Why'd you have to say the first part?
Let's just say the second part there. But a lot of people do watch in the thousands and tens of thousands and soon to be hundreds of thousands.
Wow. Yeah, everybody always asks me.
Not really true, but.
So how do you think it went, the episode this week? I'm like, why'd you ask that in such a leading kind of way?
I feel like you have a hot take coming my way.
We're beginning the episode this week with a new segment called What Are You Drinking?
Okay.
Ooh, I'm drinking coconut water. But I have a question.
Okay.
Sometimes you hear about coconut milk. Sometimes you hear about coconut water.
Yeah.
What's the diff? Anybody know?
Is there a diff? Or is that
honestly
is that a trick
asking
question?
to find the answer? I don't know.
Well, when you have a coconut, you cut it open. You drink the water.
But why do people call it milk?
It's water.
Or is it the same thing? And it's called milk maybe when it comes out of a coconut? But if that same liquid is poured into a can, it's called water.
Well,
what are you talking about?
That's not the reason. I just no.
I don't. Caleb, you want to find out for us?
Because if you have milk straight from a cow, then that's milk. But if you take the milk and you pour it into a gallon jug and then it's in your fridge, then it's water.
I mean,
wait a second. No,
immediately our listeners are thinking, "What are you guys doing?" Starting with such an incredibly deep question.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, where did God come from? Type question of like, well, he always was. Like, I can't fathom that.
Right.
That's how I feel about this.
He is the greatest conceivable being.
Coconut situation. Oh, Kayla's already.
Yeah.
I bet you're using AI now.
Are these guys cuckoo for coconuts?
How Google does that? It's like kind of AI.
Yeah, it's like gives it,
kind of helpful. So, coconut water comes from the inside of young coconuts. While coconut milk is made from the grated flesh of mature coconuts.
See, so if you that's something about a pitcher.
Yeah.
And while we're at it, what's caffeine?
Oh, caffeine. Well, there's a
next
lot of
week.
Okay.
Sorry,
I'm drinking coffee.
Yeah. Speaking of caffeine,
what kind of coffee, Ryan?
I just got it from the Keurig this morning. Very simple.
So you didn't spend $10 on the same thing?
No, and
look at you.
Yesterday,
FPU, baby.
On my Sabbath, I took a break from coffee. I felt really good about that.
Wow.
Did have a minor headache there for a little bit, which is probably a sign.
It's called withdrawals.
Yeah, withdrawals.
Yeah.
So now I'm back at it.
Good. And that's
and
victory.
Now it's better, right?
Charge the storm.
This guy fasted for a whole day.
Dude, just like a buffalo.
From coffee.
And Doug, you're drinking?
Jocko.
One of our
Go.
sponsors.
Real energy with zero crash. Less caffeine in this than most energy drinks.
Jocko.
Usually about the same amount of caffeine as a cup of coffee.
Is it made by that Jocko guy?
Yeah.
Wow.
People confuse me and Jocko all the time. They're like,
I don't think
Jocko?
so.
I'm
now,
like,
is that Jocko's drink or Doug's drink?
I'm Doug Wekenman from the Afterthoughts
I've never been
Podcast,
confused about
but
it.
I understand that.
Do you normally introduce yourself as from this podcast before anything else?
Yeah.
At this point? 54 episodes in? Yeah, me too.
I usually say, I'm Doug Wekenman, not Jocko from
Well,
the Afterthoughts Podcast.
This podcast, the Afterthoughts Podcast,
Sure,
where we talk about things like faith and culture and fun.
Yes.
Yep. And
it can go in a lot of directions. Sometimes it just takes its own shape. But today, for those planners out there, I'm going to give them the outline of the show.
Okay.
Oh.
We're going to do sports with E, hot takes with Rye, questions with Kayla, and deep convos with Doug.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
I'll start. Football sucks. I don't know why I was excited for football season.
Yeah.
The Buffs got killed. The Broncos are going to struggle all year, and half my fantasy teams are already hurt. So football is stupid. And our softball team also lost last week. So we're struggling.
That was a tough game.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a new hobby. I'm over sports for now until this
What
weekend.
do you think your new hobby is going to be?
Coconut milk.
Yeah.
And coconut water. And
Just play-
and deciphering.
bringing awareness to the world of the differences.
Let's just play more golf, guys.
Milk is
Young
when
versus old.
you blend up the coconut, actual coconut.
Yes.
But it's like an old coconut. Coconut water.
Oh, age has to do with it too.
Yeah.
Wow. So sports.
It's like an avocado.
It's very ageist of you, Kayla.
There is nothing to be excited about in sports.
moving
And I
right
knew
through
that the
sports.
second the Chiefs won at the end of that first game, I knew. Why do I get excited for
You know
this?
what we should have done? We should have watched the first Buffs game last week and then just shut off sports entirely.
Forever.
And thought, well, the Buffs are undefeated.
Yeah.
And whatever.
And that's it. The
Nothing
Buffs
else
play
matters.
CSU this week, which we have to win. I'm very nervous about that. But let's not end on such a pessimistic note. The Longhorns are legit national championship contenders.
They looked real good.
They
against
thumped Michigan at Michigan. So that's our second team. We love the Longhorns.
Love them.
So we're just going to focus on them this year.
In the world of golf.
Tell you what.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
Let's put the team that has a shot at something.
There we go.
As they say, hook them.
Hook them.
You have to pronounce the TH.
Hook them.
I forgot to also mention, this is going to offend a lot of our listeners, but seeing A&M lose their opener at home was awesome.
Amazing.
Oh, boy.
It's rumored. I don't know if this is a rumor or if this is confirmed. This fall, there's going to be a tournament, PGA versus Liv, Scotty and Rory versus Brooks and Bryson.
Who's putting that on? I'll watch
I'm not sure.
I will watch that for sure.
But Brooks and Bryson teaming up against Scotty and Rory.
That's going to be
former
very
rivals,
fun.
now teammates.
I'm living for that
Those are
now.
the best kind of teammates.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have more coverage to come on that.
Yeah, the Brooks and Bryson drama. That's why everybody tunes into the Afterthoughts podcast to hear updates on that.
And the last sports thing, everyone's been emailing and asking Kayla, can you please ask the guys what we think about the new NFL kickoff rules? We think they're stupid. It's terrible. It's so
weird.
Dumb.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
I asked Logan yesterday, I was like, has that green box always been there?
It's
He's
so
like,
dumb.
No, it's new.
And it's not even helping. There's less touchbacks so far this year as last year, and I feel like they're trying to get guys to run it out less so they don't get concussions as much. It's dumb.
Maybe it's reverse psychology.
Oh, Ryan, can you give us a hot take to bring my spirits back because I'm so down about sports right now, and I don't want to be that guy. I want to be upbeat and fun.
Hot take for you guys. And as I tell you this, I need you to tell me, am I a narcissist? That's the question.
Oh, wow.
After the story. Okay.
After the story.
Got it.
Okay. My hot take, I was on a plane a couple Mondays ago, and it was late at night, and I was so tired, and I was ready to get to my car and drive home.
I don't think you're a narcissist because of that.
Thank you,
I
guys.
think,
That's all you
I don't know.
Questions with Kayla.
I'm on the fence.
You are? Why? I think that just makes you human. You're allowed to be tired.
Seems like he's focusing a lot on his own tiredness.
Did you share the gospel with the person next to you?
Here's the hot take.
Okay.
We land, we taxi in, and then it takes like 12 minutes for everyone to get off the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm convinced, I mean this, I'm convinced that if everybody would just get off the plane the way I get off the plane, we would get off in like five times faster than we actually do.
Yeah.
Like it's absurd how
It's
bad
crazy.
people are at grabbing their stuff and getting off of a plane.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We agree?
I agree.
100%.
Oh, wasn't that hot of a take?
I
after
agree.
all?
When I'm traveling with Sam and our 3 kids,
You're better.
and everybody did it the way we did it, everybody would get off
It's a
the
pretty
plane
simple
that fast
process.
too.
You
It's
stand
so
up and grab
easy.
your bag quickly as
that's
you're
it.
walking off
And
the
you
plane.
have so much
Yeah.
time to prepare for your moment
Mhm.
because you've
Yeah.
seen 30 people do it ahead of time. And you're like,
Mhm.
okay, so when it's my time, I know what to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's not have this wasted space where we go, oh, is it me? Oh.
And you know what's funny is how
like this.
valuable a few seconds is on a plane when you're like, you kind of have that awkward like look across to the person and they kind of look like, oh yeah, you go first. It's like gonna literally make a difference of 10 seconds in their life, but it feels like that is so costly.
When there's somebody next to me on the other aisle, when they just go, I go, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's fine. Let's just keep it going.
Just move.
Just
Let's
move.
not have the wasted seconds of deciding who's going to go here.
I think it is so far from narcissism. I actually think it's responsibility, or even to quote my boy Jocko, extreme ownership. Because
Thanks, Jocko.
the question you're asking
Doug,
yourself,
Jocko.
it's the same
Which
question
guy-
as,
you are Jocko,
you know
or
how,
you're Doug still?
well, I know it's like,
Special guest Jocko
it's such
joining us today.
there's such a blur. It's there's no fine line, or that's the
When you
finest
pull
line.
up a picture of Jocko, I can't picture him right now.
Just look at me.
I know it's not that. Narcissism, by the way, is a word that gets thrown out a lot.
Oh, it's a
these
buzzword
days.
nowadays, man.
Oh, yeah.
How do you guys? No, that doesn't look anything like you.
Everybody loves to talk about how everybody else is
a narcissist.
narcissist.
Is
Yeah.
calling somebody a narcissist a very narcissistic thing to do?
Probably.
I think it easily becomes that.
I remember.
Or I think it has gotten hijacked to the point where it's, okay, now it's such an obsession that it has become that.
It's kind of like people who struggle with anxiety feel like they can't anymore because everybody has anxiety.
Basically.
It's like, no, you're just nervous about your test. Like that's just like a common like human thing to go through.
I think there's like every human being has pride, right? Narcissism takes that where it's like you live in a different like true narcissism, like from a psychological, almost like, diagnosable standpoint. You live in a different reality where you are right on everything and everyone else is wrong and everything is revolving around you. But that's not just like, oh, this person's kind of self-focused, self-centered. It's a higher level.
Correct.
Than that. It's a psychological thing.
Everybody on this plane is intentionally going slow in order to ruin my good night's sleep.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
And if you operate, it's like,
which I
of
do
course,
believe.
three guys got hurt in the NFL this week because I drafted them.
Yeah. And now it's your fault that they got hurt.
Yeah.
So they really should be frustrated at you.
Yeah.
If you actually believe they got hurt because they're on your fantasy football team.
The Buffs had a bad first quarter because the game started when service was still going, so I couldn't watch. That's
probably true.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Not because they, again, don't have an offensive line.
But yes, it is one of those words where now you feel like it's starting to lose its meaning.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's like the whole victim mindset thing.
Right.
Over the last 5-10 years.
Right.
Because there are people on the planet who truly are victims. And when I say victim, I mean you need somebody else to step in and intervene because you're actually in a powerless situation to be able to help yourself and save yourself.
Right.
And you almost feel like from everybody in that small crowd, we're kind of lumping them in with everybody else who actually does have the power within themselves to take agency and change their lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
yes,
to circle back to that, no, I don't think that's narcissism. Actually, I genuinely think that's extreme ownership.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, if everybody on the plane was Ryan, then we would get off of this flight a lot faster.
So much faster.
Same question as, because we all like to critique people in church. We all like to critique the church. We all love to criticize.
Especially Ethan.
We all love to criticize our country. Our country, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
If everybody in the United States was the kind of citizen you are, would our country be worse or better than it is right now?
Great question to ask.
If everybody in the church served the way you serve, invited the way you invited, gave the way you gave, prayed the way you prayed, what would the condition of the American church be?
Yep.
Worse, better.
Wow.
Narcissist.
Yes. But that's, I think, extreme ownership, where rather than we all want to see the plane changed, but very few of us are willing to change ourselves.
That's really good.
We all want to see the country changed, but are you willing to
take some steps
to take agency of your life and the things you can change and the way you can become a better citizen or a better Christian or a better kingdom builder or whatever it is? Are you willing to take extreme ownership and do that?
That was a DIY sound effect there. Kind of inhaled that a little bit.
Yeah, you did.
There was no after effects on that.
So many things tied to social media where I think that there has been a growth in self-centeredness and a feeling of frustration with the world, because now everyone feels like, I expressed my opinion to the world. Why is no one listening to me? Even though they have 200 followers, there's this puffed up perception now because you have a megaphone to go with your opinions all the time. That makes everybody think I could fix the world if only everyone would listen to me. But
and we confuse sharing our opinions with doing something.
Yes.
That I did my part because I shared my opinion.
That's an important one.
Sharing your opinion is
everyone
so
does that all the time, every day.
That's not anything.
That's not anything. Okay. Hot takes really took us in a whole different narcissistic
if you're
direction.
listening to this on a plane, get ready to deboard and do it well.
Yeah, just do it right. Doug, did you have any hot takes while we were there? Okay.
No, I don't have any.
Kayla, do you have any questions?
I do.
For the crew.
Yes, for the crew. Okay. So,
Ryan.
Would you rather?
What did you say?
It's just such an extreme way to say no.
I said no. No, Ethan, I don't have any hot takes.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather have a houseboat, like you live on a boat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or a treehouse? Both could be like kind of epic, like make it how you want. It's not like
and it can be as cool of a house as you want.
Very a really cool treehouse would be amazing, but
in the redwood forest.
I'm going houseboat.
Are you thinking of Return of the Jedi and the Ewok scene?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Filmed in the redwood forest.
Yes.
Very epic treehouse.
Those guys had it pretty good in those trees.
That's pretty dope.
Fun crew, the Ewoks.
Yeah, dude.
We should get an Ewok on here.
And the sequel, The Holiday Hangover that Doug filmed.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
In the same
You'll
forest.
never meet a narcissistic Ewok.
No, they're the best, dude.
I had a dream about those a while ago.
You did?
Yeah.
What? Okay.
About
yeah,
Ewoks?
they were being like captured and I had to go and save them.
Go, Kayla.
And what happened?
Wow.
Well, they were like, it was really kind of dark. They were like in hell and
Oh, gosh.
I know,
What-
but it's okay. The dream ended up being okay.
How?
But I don't.
Let's hear that part.
Yeah.
All I know is like I was like flying over the scene and like they were like just being like slaves and I felt so bad for them. I don't remember how it ended, but
But it was okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Why?
they ended up getting ice cream at the end of it. I don't know how we got there. but
What?
yeah.
So,
Those are my dreams though. They kind of just end up somewhere. I'm like, oh,
They
here we
did get
are.
ice cream.
Yeah.
just to trace the plot, just to be
It was
clear,
okay in the end.
your dream was that you were flying over a view of Ewoks in hell,
Yes.
and then next thing you know, they get ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I had a dream, and I know where it roots from. I had a dream last night that I was at some big house with a bunch of people, like family and stuff.
Oh, because
And
you were
the-
at my house,
No.
big house, and then
Oh yeah, your boathouse, houseboat. There was a crocodile as a pet that was just making its way around everywhere, and
Yeah.
I was so frustrated. I was like, I have a 1-year-old and a dog here.
yeah,
Get that thing out of here. And everyone was just the whole time like, it doesn't. It's just like it's a pet. It doesn't
just
matter.
cool.
And I was like, I'm gonna attack that thing if it tries to do something. And then I started watching YouTube videos in my dream of people wrestling crocodiles to try to
Yeah.
figure out like, what do I have to do here?
Oh yeah,
Here's why I know I had that dream. There's a guy, I think his name's Carson Steele on the Kansas City Chiefs, who has
oh yeah.
a pet crocodile or alligator. Never know the difference. I know there is. Like that he raised that lives with him.
Seriously?
That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
He's on the right team. Let's
You
move on.
You shouldn't have that.
Questions. with Kayla.
Dreams are weird, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, we should do a whole episode on dreams.
Would you-
I don't really know what to say.
would you
yeah.
would you, if you were given the choice right now to have dreamless sleep for the rest of your life, would you take it?
Yes.
I would too.
It's like
Really?
I work a full-time job in my dreams.
I wake up
Doesn't-
exhausted.
Yeah.
Logan doesn't really have dreams.
No, but he's
Very
like, I
often.
wish I could. And I'm like, no.
I kind of
Yeah.
like dreaming.
I actually would say no to that. I
Really?
enjoy
I
dreaming.
keep the dreams. It's mysterious.
Yes.
I just like anything I see during the day, I like, which is like great because then it's like really makes me watch what I'm seeing or taking
Oh,
because then I can't
that's
control
good.
what I dream. And I'm like, well, here it goes. Saw a scary commercial. Can't wait to dream about that.
Did you have ice
Wow.
cream that day and watch
This
Return
was
of
like
the Jedi?
in college. I
And
know.
go to a hell
I
house.
think I was watching Star Wars during that time, so
Okay.
it probably makes sense why I
Yeah.
dreamed them.
Wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, pretty
Uh,
crazy.
Houseboat.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Everybody says houseboat or treehouse.
Houseboat.
Treehouse.
Cool. There you go.
But not in hell.
okay. Not in what?
In the redwoods.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather sneeze every time someone said red rocks or laugh every time someone said red rocks?
Laugh.
Laugh.
Yesterday.
It would
Laughter
make-
is good for you. Wow. Sermon Ethan gave
isn't it medicine?
back in 2019.
Oh,
right.
yeah. And I might be talking about that again soon.
Wow.
Uncommon,
Uncommon laughter.
Uncommon jokes.
uncommon jokes.
Uncommon
And I'm just
humor.
going to tell 40 jokes that
Yeah.
are uncommon.
Yeah.
Speaking of
here's a
sneezing-
joke that's not going to hit for everybody.
It
is
That'd be
uncommon.
my favorite church service.
I can't burp. I've never been able to burp. It's like a physical thing, I guess. So yesterday, Zeke and I were driving home from his soccer practice, and I sneezed really loud in the car, and he just in the backseat goes, I mean, you could do that. Why can't you burp?
That's how he said it?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like that. And I was like, well, it's not the same.
Just
Okay.
calling you out on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then he
even
said-
Zeke knows.
Then he said, normally don't you sneeze a little quieter than that? I said, I tried to sneeze loud.
Wow.
It's better for you.
Okay, my last question.
once you're a dad,
and-
you have to.
I
Yeah.
wanted to somehow be like, okay, how can I like tie this into the uncommon like series? You know, I was like trying to figure
Sure.
out a way.
Oh, thank you.
And so
Thank you
bear
so
with me.
much.
I'm going to share my thoughts on how I got here.
Can't wait to hear this.
Yes. Okay. So I was like, okay, uncommon. What's like uncommon? Then I was like, the Guinness World of the book of world records. I was like, that's like so uncommon. Like as a kid, I used to like always get those books.
Yeah.
Like when you can
Those
break
books were awesome.
when you can break a world record, like that makes you uncommon.
Yeah.
So then I was like thinking back, when did I get those books? Well, I would always get them at the Scholastic Book Fairs as a kid.
Oh yeah.
So when you were a kid, what was the best thing you got at the Scholastic Book Fair?
That's a great question. I loved those.
Me too.
I was a big Magic School Bus kid.
Okay.
Oh, that
So
tracks.
I remember getting the Magic School Bus book where they go to outer space. Very unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
That's
Why?
the only episode that's unrealistic.
Why was it?
I remember getting that one.
Nice.
And it was awesome.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I remember collecting zoo books,
You were a big zoo
and I
boy
would
guy.
draw. I drew a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
I would draw all the animals on every
yeah.
page of every zoo
that.
book. It was my favorite thing to do.
Do they still have Scholastic Book Fairs? Do you know?
Yeah, Will has a book fair coming up in a couple
Oh,
weeks.
really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just the
Oh,
best.
man.
Yeah, that feeling was because there was always like it was a two-parter.
Uh-huh.
The first day you got to go just to sort of look and browse
Right.
and make a list or note everything you wanted to buy, but you couldn't
Yeah.
actually buy it
Mm-hmm.
until the next time you
It's
went
like an open
back.
house.
Yeah, so it built anticipation too.
Mm-hmm.
You were so excited to actually walk out with that book the second time. Yeah.
We're just buying time for your answer, Harry.
Yeah.
You guys are doing
He's looking
awesome.
He's looking at what a book fair is. Yep.
I found it
Okay.
at the Scholastic Book Fair. I was so excited. I'll send you this. We could put it up. I got this poster.
That poster.
this car, the spider,
Uh-huh.
SPY. I got this poster at the Scholastic Book Fair and hung it up in my room so proudly that night.
It's not even
My
like
parents were like, "Do you want a book?" And I was like, "No. I've got
This.
something better than a book. Have you seen this car?"
Dude, I love that.
Have you heard of posters, Dad?
the background is like they could have it on an open road or something. But
No,
they just
it's like it looks like tire tracks. And then it says spider in like a spidery font.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
when your father is a children's author too. I'm sure he was super pumped that his
Yeah.
kid didn't care.
You want a book?
about getting a
No,
book.
Dad. I need a poster, dude.
Yeah.
I had
Picture
that.
says 1,000 words,
Yeah,
Dad.
I had that in a Derek Jeter poster.
Nice. Well, guys.
I had a
Thank you,
Griff. I
kid.
had a Griffey and a Tiger Woods poster.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. I'll try to get my poster on set.
Yeah, maybe we can cover the Afterthoughts.
Well, Kayla, what an
Don't try too hard.
incredibly perfect segue
Yes,
into
I
talking
know.
about
Yeah.
uncommon
Yeah.
uncommon posters.
Yes.
Uncommon Scholastic Book Fairs.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting into this series and conversations about living an uncommon life.
Yes.
And you talked about the difference between a cow and a buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
When a storm is coming, the cows run from it and prolong the storm. Buffaloes charge it and they get through it.
Yep.
Go Buffs.
Go Buffs. Yeah. Trying to get people to think about buffalo as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still trying to get Coach Prime on here,
Yeah.
but he's in season. So let's talk personally. Some times in your life where let's hear a cow moment of a storm you just kept running from but staying in.
Yeah.
Buffalo moment when you felt like you finally charged something
Mm-hmm.
that was headed your way.
My main example that is just so much of my story is actually answers both those questions, because for years I was the cow running away from the storm, with the dependency on prescription pain pills that became an addiction for almost a decade. But I could handle it. Like, it didn't affect my life, didn't affect my work. So it made it almost more dangerous for that reason, because it just went on and on and on. And every month, that feeling of this could be the month to turn around and be the buffalo and just charge through the storm, because I know this is going to suck.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be withdrawals, and I know it's going to be a bit of a road to get my brain healing and heading in the other direction. And so I had an opportunity 12 times a year for probably thought about it for 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
To charge the storm, but opted again and again and again to run for another month.
Yep.
And as it slowly kind of caught me, and And then finally it was last year, March of last year, that something happened. It's a longer story for another day, but was finally, this is now or never, because this is the easiest this storm is ever going to be is right now.
Right.
And the longer I wait and the more I run from it, next year, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, I'm going to be weaker. I'm not going to like who I am. I'm going to be less able to turn around and charge it.
Good.
And I'm going to have wasted another decade. The fastest way through it is to charge straight into it. So, and what I said was the pain paradox that Rory Vaden wrote a book called Take the Stairs. He actually started following us and commented on a few of the things, which was really cool.
Whoa.
So shout out to Rory Vaden.
Yes. Let's go, Rory.
Because a lot of the things you write in your interviews, man, have helped me a lot, specifically with what I'm talking about right now. So thank you for the hard work that you put into the content that you create, because it's really good. But the pain paradox is the easy decision today leads to the hardest long term.
Mm-hmm.
But the hard decision today actually leads to the easy long term. So charging the storm is not about just doing hard things because we love pain. It's actually the opposite. It's the fastest way to the least amount of pain. That's what buffalo understand that cows don't. By charging into the storm, you can't outrun it. And the cows just prolong it, and they prolong the life that's waiting for them on the other side of the storm. They just keep delaying it. So you're running from pain, but you're also running from the story that God wants to write in your life.
Yeah.
And the storm is part of that story. And when you can realize that this storm is not this big barrier, but it's actually on the way and part of the story that will become my testimony, you realize that and then become a buffalo and turn and face it, and then you charge into it because you do have what it takes. And everybody around you will be better because you did that. So that's a big example. Down to small ones usually has to do, for me, difficult conversations I need to have where I put them off. You know, if it's a day at work, it's the difference between having it at 9 a.m. versus having it at 4 p.m. If I have it at 4 p.m., my whole day is kind of wasted dreading it.
Yeah.
But if I have it at 9, you have it and then you realize it was actually good. And then it kind of wakes you up to get a lot of stuff done the rest of the day without that storm without dreading that storm, I mean. So on a smaller scale, it's conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's mine. I've noticed over the years, and especially recently, I've always been really good when conflict happens at just letting it go and moving past it and like giving people the benefit of the doubt. That's always been my mindset. Recently, I've realized more that I am actually just nervous about conflict, and instead of approaching that person and having the necessary conversation, I'll just pretend like I'm burying it. And I will bury it, sweep it under the rug, but then I stew on it. Is stew the right word? Brew?
Stew. Yeah.
I stew and I brew on it for a couple of weeks.
Brooding is stewing.
And it's like, wait, I'm not letting this go. I'm like actually taking this like disempowering stance here and letting it bother me instead of having the actual conversation. And so what a buffalo would do is there's some things you just let go and you overlook. Absolutely. Sure. Then there's lots of conversations that you just need to learn how to have. And so I need to talk to you two about something right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's just do it right now.
Oh, hold on. Let me get my AirPods.
Yeah. Your AirPods Max.
Yeah, with the
Isn't
noise.
that a dumb name?
Yeah, noise cancellation.
AirPods Max.
Really dumb.
I hate that.
Yep. How about you, E?
Commitment, which you talked about in relationships, was a huge one for me. At my wedding, my brother and his best man toast was like marveling that I was getting married. And he was like, my brother, ever since I've known him, was allergic to commitment. He literally said that in front of Steph's whole family, which was cool. And roasted me for another 30 minutes.
He said a lot of funny things.
Yes. But that was
a great toast.
It was really good. That was like my whole dating life, was just running from commitment.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, always a perception of a guy who does that he's just a piece of trash that just wants to play girls and get what he wants type thing. And there was truth to that, but also I think there's insecurity and a feeling of inadequacy from a guy who lives that life because he doesn't actually believe he has what it takes to be someone worth sticking with. So he'll self-sabotage the relationship or just bail on it because it's like, well, for this to be great, I'd have to be great, and I'm not.
That's good.
And then when I met Steph, it was like a turning point in my life with relationships, and I surrendered that to God. I've talked about that a lot recently, but I was still intimidated by commitment because I'd never really done it and just had to charge it and run straight into the challenges that come with commitment and the self-sacrifice and the humbling moments and run into it instead of trying to run from it. And the storm that I think persists on you when you run from commitment, you're trying to get away from it because you're afraid of all the things that are going to make you feel insecure, all the failures, but those keep raining on you just alone, you know? So we could talk a little bit about that because I think that's a lot of people's challenge when it comes to, you talked about singleness and the prolonged singleness in our day and age. And that's so many meetings that we have right now is with people that are trying to figure out, should we just double down on this thing and actually get engaged, get married? And I think that there's almost like such a fear of struggle. And such a perception in the world we live in that like relationships are supposed to be easy, even though everyone knows they're not. But still, we kind of believe if we, like, I know on the grand scale it's hard, but if the two of us really are having a struggle here, then this probably isn't it. And I just feel like that's such a misperception because relationships just come with storms. It's two people and it always will. But so many couples, I feel like, are just standing in the rain. Just waiting and waiting and waiting instead of just committing and running into it and saying like, this stuff's going to come and go, but also there will be sunshine if we let the storm pass over us, but instead we're just going to live in the rain together in this limbo of lack of commitment.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Or thinking, and we talk about this a lot, but if there's rain and if there's a storm, I made a wrong decision. Or something's wrong.
I heard God wrong.
Yeah. No buffalo has ever thought there's a storm. I wonder if something is wrong with the weather or wrong with the one who controls the weather. Or no, it's just the reality of life. Storms come. And you don't always get to decide that. And anything that's worth doing has pain attached to it. Because it shows you care about it. So anything as far as people in your life that you give yourself to, or purpose in your life that you commit your time to, or your energy or passion, will also bring inevitable pain. And I think we all would nod and go, yeah, that's true. But then we respond very different when it actually happens in reality. So we get married and then 6 months in, there's a big storm. We start to panic and think something's wrong. No, you understand this on paper, that anything worth doing, including marriage, comes with pain, and you will face storms. And it's not a sign that there's something wrong or that you picked the wrong person necessarily, or that it's a sign that, okay, this is just because it's worth having. And now it can be an opportunity that you charge together rather than an obstacle that you sit in together.
And
you know what I'm saying?
In a culture that just emphasizes ease and comfort so much, you watch all kinds of people around you that just quit on anything once the storm shows up. It's like, I'm out. And so I think that's like the temptation for people to think the second that this requires some grit and running into a storm, I'm out.
But everything in my life that's caused me pain has been things and people that I love and I've given my life to. All the things I've decided this is worth doing. This is worth pursuing. Those are the things that bring inevitable pain.
I just recorded a group curriculum for Right Now Media for my book, Single Today. Ethan and I were putting it together a couple weeks ago, and it's going to be out this fall. And so I had 8 sessions to like really dive into, okay, if I have a whole bunch of single people in a room watching this together, what are the issues that I want them to really tackle? And I kept coming back to loneliness, because I think the fruit of both of the things that you're talking about is if we are making comfort king, then isolation is always going to be the fruit. because being with other people is a difficult thing that requires us to be uncomfortable. And so if it's always as soon as somebody hurts us, I'm out, or as soon as I don't like something, I'm out, then that's just going to continue to further and further isolate us. And if you want to have uncommon community, you have to be willing to go, no, I'm going to say no to that. And I'm going to, whatever it looks like for you, choose to be with people. And so when I look at this loneliness epidemic, I think a huge piece of it is us pursuing comfort and us pursuing our own self-preservation, to your point this weekend.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really well said.
It's interesting to comfort, like how comfortable people can get with bad situations, you know, but we kind of just make our place there. And then it starts to feel like to try to move out of that into what could be better, because it's uncomfortable to have to make some moves, is impossible. But I watched with Steph, you know, some years into our marriage, her anxiety and depression had ramped up, had a baby, and all of that was kind of this storm that was brewing in her life and our life. And there's almost this temptation of like, if we just kind of get by and ignore this, or kind of like not just totally dive into it, it almost feels more comfortable, even though she's really struggling. And I watched her finally kind of just decide, like, I'm charging this storm, and started going to therapy, met with her doctor to talk, like, I'm open to, do I need an anti-anxiety med? Like, we went to marriage counseling, charged that storm, and sunshine came on the other side. You know, but it lures you in when you're in the midst of kind of those darker seasons to kind of feel like, well, to run out of this or run towards some sort of future that's different requires a lot of work. So maybe we're just more comfortable here. And I think there's a lot of people stuck in those places that almost feel comfortable now with their struggle and pain. And maybe that lures you into not believing there's better on the other side for you, or that you have what it takes to actually charge that storm. It's like a deception that comes.
It's almost like we know something will always go wrong. So if we have this one thing that's kind of going wrong, we can sit in it, and that'll be our thing. And so it's like we're almost afraid of the sunshine, because sunshine's going to mean another storm. So what if I just stay in this storm that I'm comfortable with?
And sunshine is going to bring light to some things that I'm going to have to deal with, right? I'm going to have to confront some of these things that the clouds can't just keep hovering over. And that's just kind of what my life is. But
it's easier to hide in the storm.
Yeah, exactly.
Than in the sunshine.
But I've admired so much about my wife that she broke it all open and was just like, you know what? I want to live a healthy life. I want to have a healthy marriage. I want to have raised kids and not be constantly chained down by these things that the enemy really started in my life. And so I'm going to charge this storm, and it's going to be hard. And it's been years of ups and downs and conversations and counseling and all these things that have helped ultimately to shine a light on a whole lot of places. And there's been healing in a lot of those places, and then storms in others. But the more you charge storms, the more equipped you feel to charge future ones, right?
Absolutely.
You keep going, and that spirit in you grows and gets stronger, and you have more evidence to stand on to say, like, hey, that wasn't easy, but we ran through that. So this next one that's coming, so be it.
And I think there's something to be said about turnaround time. So for instance, you have a difficult conversation. So it's, let's say you'd wait a month to have it. Well, it's a win if you can cut that in half and have it in 2 weeks. And then, okay, let's say you get it down to that week. And let's say eventually it's that day. Okay, now there's a win between having it at 4 p.m. and having it at 10 in the morning. The faster you can acknowledge the storm and then face it and charge it. The quicker you can do the difficult thing, the least amount of pain you're going to walk in. It's almost like the easiest life is found in doing the hardest things as fast as you can. I'm going to, even throughout your day, what are the hardest things you need to do? Charge those, and it's a recipe for the easiest, most lightest, freest, joy-filled day.
That's
Turnaround
really good,
time
man.
is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And I heard this on a podcast on Modern Wisdom, I think last week, a quote that said, bad things don't happen in threes. And I love it because, and here, I'll explain it really quick. So let's say, I think the example Chris on that podcast gave was your girlfriend breaks up with you. So there's a bad thing, but then all of a sudden it bums you out and you're in pain. And so you stop applying yourself at work and you start showing up late and leaving early, but then you lose your job. So there's a bad thing number 2. And then it really kind of spirals you into a depression. And so you start not eating healthy, you stop exercising, and you eat a lot of comfort food. And then you gain 30 pounds. So there's bad thing number 3. Oh, bad things happen in 3s. No, bad things just happen all the time.
Right.
You just need to get better at the turnaround time between, okay, here's this one storm that is coming or is happening in my life. Let me just charge this before it turns into a hurricane of 3 storms that have collided. And my lack of turnaround time is what created that bigger storm.
Interesting.
So you got broken up with, and now it's the difference between this becomes 2 more storms versus, no, this is going to be the storm, and I'm going to charge it and rise to the occasion. And of course it's going to suck and there's pain.
Yeah.
But, it's the Israelites walking through the wilderness to get to the promised land. It took them 40 years. Yeah. It could have been a 12-day walk.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's
and so
good,
in a lot of ways, you decide how long are you hanging out in this storm. And if you can get better at that turnaround time, get that down, and then charge straight into it as soon as the buffalo smell it is when they start moving towards it.
Turnaround time would be a great sermon.
I think so too.
Because really a lot of this is an unwillingness to face the pain that we're feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's why our work performance starts to suffer. That's why we go to comfort food, because we're trying to numb, and we're trying to there's this pain down there and we don't want to see it and we don't want to feel it, but feelings need to be felt.
Right.
And so turnaround time requires you to feel the things that you're actually feeling.
And the perception of a storm, I think we always have the narrative of like, storms aren't supposed to happen. We're not supposed to live in storms. As believers, like everything's supposed to be sunshine all the time. But there's actually great learning that happens when you charge through a storm, because sometimes that may take a little bit of time. You're charging through it, but it may not be one day that it's over. Like we always go to the story, well, Jesus calmed the storm in an instant.
Yeah.
But also in the boat, he was napping when that was raging and gave his disciples a few minutes of panic and a few minutes of like recognizing the magnitude of this storm and realizing like we may not get through this. And then they wake him up and he immediately stops it to show them, hey, the key to getting through this storm, however long it's going to take, is that you let me be in the boat with you and lead you. And I will quiet the storm and I will speak to it. But I think it's good for us sometimes when we charge that storm to let it teach us and push us to a reliance on him.
Correct.
To get through it instead of just trying to be that grit guy. Because I feel like some people could hear what we're talking about and be like, that's right. I can do this in my strength. Like I'm tough and I got broken up with. I'm not even going to feel it.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to let that affect me. And I'm going to be better at my job. It's like, okay, but there's probably also a place that you need to feel some of the rain because it does hurt.
Right.
But don't just stop or keep walking backwards away from it. Walk into it and let it teach you through this time.
Good, man.
Ultimately reliance on Jesus.
It's the same problem, right? Some people numb with comfort food. Other people numb with working out way too much.
Yeah.
Same problem.
Yeah.
Some people numb by slacking off at work. Some people numb by doubling down on work and not thinking about anything else. And so the question becomes, okay, like working out and working hard are both two good things. But if the motivation behind that is to push down the pain that we're feeling, what would it look like to first sit with that, feel it, and then get up and crush your job and crush your workout and all that?
Yeah. And remembering, I think at the end, the end game is for purpose and for the people in my life. That's why I'm going through this, is not just to feel pain and not just to get through pain, but because there's a greater narrative that's taking place. That's the whole, the whole thing right now with the world of self-improvement, where everybody is on this, so many people are on this mission where the North Star is just, I need to be a little bit more improved this year. And I need to, people who are in insane shape going, I need to be in a little bit better shape. I need to, it's like they keep pushing it a little bit farther out. I need to be better at this. But then the question becomes, okay,
why?
But why though?
Yeah.
Because if it's only about self-improvement, it does become narcissistic because it's the great journey is just you becoming the best version of you.
Right.
When in reality, zoom out, it should be become the best version of you. I agree with all that, but for the sake of the purpose that you are living out and the people that you are pouring yourself out for.
Yeah.
I want to have a strong and healthy body so that I'm ready for whatever Will wants to do. Right. Like, Dad, let's go do this. Or need to preach 5 times.
Yeah.
That's not and then turn around and do it next week. And that's not easy.
Right.
And wanting to, if we weren't healthy, you wouldn't be able to do that as often as we do that. And so, okay, the self-improvement is good, but it has to be a means that serves an end game. So what is your end game, and what are you pouring yourself out for?
Good.
Yeah. What's the motivation to charge the storm?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Yeah. Ultimately to pour yourself out.
Well, and the disciples are the perfect example of that, pouring out for people in purpose, right? Because when the ultimate storm came for them, when Jesus was arrested, they all went into like preservation mode, right? Yeah. They handled that storm so poorly because they didn't see the bigger purpose. They didn't understand it. So it was just me. Yeah. How do I like run from this storm and survive it? But then on the other side of the resurrection, you see them become men who charged they lived in a storm. Like their life was a hurricane from then on.
Yeah.
But they just kept charging through it because they had the why behind it. Like, I will know Christ more in my suffering, and I will build his church more as I charge this storm. That's the purpose of my life, is for all these people who don't know him.
Right.
And then storms look different to you, I think. Like guys like Paul that start to say, like, bring it on. Like, I welcome this stuff because it actually points me to the fact that I'm online with what Jesus has called me to. And these storms aren't going to stop me. Instead, they're only going to build more of the ministry of what I'm doing.
James opened his letter with, consider it pure joy when you see a storm on the horizon.
Yeah.
When you face trials of many kinds.
Yeah.
He goes, we got another storm coming. What a great opportunity.
Yeah.
To have our faith be tested, to build perseverance, and to be more like Jesus.
Yep.
Because like you see posters a lot of, there's that classic picture of there's a buffalo and its face is covered in snow and it's charging a blizzard. And you don't see many posters of just a buffalo laying down in a grass field during
That's funny.
During sunshine.
Out. Yeah.
You know?
That's funny.
Like, I feel like for a buffalo, sunny seasons are more enjoyable, but in that storm, there's something about that animal that looks alive.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing where when you're in pain and you're actually charging it and not running from it, you feel it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it's the classic being in a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Being in an ice bath where you're like, I want so bad to get out of this. And for some reason, I don't, because I feel so alive right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm charging a storm. I'm in pain for some, and it's for a greater purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't believe I'm doing this. It's that feeling of I'm the kind of person who can charge this kind of storm. Is very empowering. And makes you realize what God has actually placed inside of you. You find that out when you charge storms, not when the weather's good.
Totally.
Boom.
That's the Jesus call that like beats in all of our hearts, that you have to revive a lot because of the comfort of the world. But I think that just speaks to us. You said it this past weekend, like, you want to talk about charging a storm. He charged the storm called death.
Yes.
Right.
That dude charged every storm that came at him, and he quieted all of them. And there is in all of us the want to be like him and follow him.
Yeah.
And I think it's when you follow him into a storm and charge it with him that you know him deeper and more and understand more of what you're called to do in your life. And the perspective of eternity kind of is like the same feeling of a cold plunge or a workout that's really, really hard, where you're like, I know after this workout, I can rest. I'll have a protein shake and sit out on my back porch and just relax after this, and it's going to be great. And that kind of incentivizes me even more right now that I want to do this. I'm going to go as fast as I can and work as hard as I can. I feel like that's the Christian life, to know like eternity awaits and it's going to be amazing and complete peace and all of the great things that lie ahead. So in this time where life is full of storms, I'm going to charge every single one of them, just like Jesus did, and with him leading me, so that I can make the most of the time that I have.
And I think the reason the three of us are as close as we are is, yes, because we've had fun experiences together, but because we've been in it in different storms and been in the same storm side by side and had to charge it alongside. Like that gives you, I mean, I think there's a reason Paul says you like intimacy with Christ is found in sharing in his sufferings.
Yeah.
When you know I'm in something that Jesus faced, there is a proximity that you feel to him that you just don't feel when things are good. Yeah. And so I think that's why James says, don't waste trials. Consider it pure joy because of what it's doing. Yeah. That is achieving something for you that the sunshine can't.
Yes.
Yeah. So to something very like normal life, like a breakup, I think the approach when somebody goes, you know what, this sucks right now, but this is going to be a time in my life when I charge into this and I feel it and I heal from it and I rely on Jesus and let him speak to me and work in my life. And I'm going to come out the other side more of the future husband or wife that I want to be. That's a whole different approach than, well, I got broken up with and I'm just going to sulk and kind of feel, just let it rain on me for a while. You know, there's two different approaches that we can take those things.
Yep.
Let me switch directions for our last few minutes here. And hopefully people, well, somehow we'll get them to listen to this point, because I think this is an important question. You talked about common and uncommon life, but also a lot of times it's not, obviously there's sinful things that keep us in common life in this world. But there's also just common things that maybe aren't sinful, maybe aren't like on paper bad for you, but they become that for you. Let's talk a little bit about some of those things, along with some questions people are asking right now of like, well, what about things that the Bible doesn't directly talk about? And how do I know if that's okay or not? And does that keep me common or live an uncommon life? How do we handle some of that?
Well, the whole inspiration for this series actually started a couple years ago reading Hebrews 12. And it's the writer of Hebrews saying there's a race that's been marked out for you, so run it with your focus on Jesus, the perfecter and pioneer of faith. But he says, throw off all the sin that entangles and everything else that hinders you. So immediately you see two categories. And a lot of times we just talk about the obvious one, which is the sin that entangles. If porn is destroying your brain, if alcohol is robbing your future, you're not going to be able to run the race God has marked out for you. That one's obvious. But the not so obvious is everything else that maybe isn't necessarily a sin, but maybe it's just not consistent or beneficial to the race God has given you to run. And a lot of us want an uncommon calling. We want to live an uncommon life. But if you're going to live an uncommon life, it can't be full of common things and common decisions and common patterns. Wanting an uncommon life is not what makes your life uncommon. It's throw off the sin that entangles and everything else that maybe is just common to the world, but that's just not for you because you've been called to something more uncommon than that.
What are some examples of things right now you feel like are prevalent for people, of just common stuff that's they may not immediately think of as something that's hindering the uncommon life?
I'll tell you the biggest change for me over the last couple of years, not that I do it perfectly, watching TV at night instead of reading. And the idea, everybody rolls their eyes every time I say that. I believe that if we want to have an uncommon calling, we have to have an uncommon imagination. And when you read a book, you are, especially a fiction book, you are allowing your mind, you're exercising the muscle of creating worlds in your mind and your imagination. When you watch something, you're letting somebody else create that for you. And so I know it's whatever. It's common to binge watch something before bed. It's uncommon to go, I'm going to turn all of that off. I'm going to turn off my phone. We're going to get away from screens for a couple of hours. And we're going to go to a good book.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I heard it said recently, the average multimillionaire reads an average of one nonfiction book a month. So 12 all the way through every single year. Which doesn't sound like crazy.
It's not that hard.
But that actually is very uncommon nowadays to do something like that. Everybody is jealous of the outcome of a lot of people who live uncommon. But nobody actually is jealous of the lifestyle it takes for everybody who has an uncommon outcome. The lifestyle they choose and the common things they set themselves apart from. Nobody actually is jealous of that. But when you can start to fall in love with an uncommon lifestyle, because you know it's going to lead to uncommon fruit. So yeah, I think screens is a big part of it. I think are how you handle your phone and whether your phone has you or not, and how many times like you've given messages on the worst relationship of our lives with our phone, and everybody kind of giggles and goes, "Oh, this is so true." But then how many people actually make a change and handle this in an uncommon way?
Very few.
Very few. So I think our phones, it's very common to have screen time where it's just ridiculous amount of hours every single week that you're watching TV or you're scrolling, not doing productive things, but actually just the time wasters. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so setting yourself apart from what's common, and you can still have this, but are you getting serious about using it in an uncommon way?
Yeah.
I think, absolutely.
Yeah. The last couple of weeks talking about AI and technology and stuff, I think the people that will live uncommon lives of the future are the ones who are uncommon in how they steward technology for sure.
Yeah.
Because it is now the ultimate distraction for everything. And it inundates us with content. So I think one of the most uncommon things you can do is just think and just like walk without listening to something.
Yes.
Like it is so tempting and it's hard. Like what we do. Like I almost feel irresponsible at times if I just have free time where I'm not like listening to a podcast for my next sermon that could help me start getting some material 2 weeks in advance and stuff. Yeah. And I feel like that gets so overwhelming to the point that we as humans are so full of content all the time, but we don't really can't even track all of it. It's just filling us too much. So decompressing and letting go of those things and taking time off of content, I think is very uncommon at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I'll tell you a common mindset versus an uncommon one. And I think we both used to do this, asking even Bill, our college director at the Annex, how far can I go with my girlfriend? Or like, what can we get away with that God's going to be cool with? And I really understand the heart behind that because you just actually want to know. Right. You want to know.
Yeah, give me a line.
Yeah, seriously, because then I can get as close to it as possible without going over. Yeah. And maybe go over a little bit, but then we bring it back, you know? And it's so human. And I've been there. Yeah. I deal with that same question in other aspects of my life today. Yeah. Just give me a line because it makes it, but it's the wrong question. It's the wrong mindset. Yeah. Because you're asking how much common stuff can I get away with to still have the uncommon calling that I want God to place on my life, as opposed to asking, okay, we're in a relationship right now. How can we honor God the most and sow into our future marriage the most, our future sex life the most, our future everything? Those are two very different mindsets. One is a common one that I believe leads to a common marriage, and one is more uncommon of a mindset that leads to the uncommon marriage everybody wants. Yeah. Same question with like, can I smoke this and why can't I? I'm like, are we like, okay, we'll spend an hour in my office talking about that. Just know this is common stuff. Right. Right. And so if you're okay with just, living common, then we can spend an hour talking about this. But my guess is you're not going to change this because you find a Bible verse that says specifically don't smoke weed. It's going to be when you start to get to know God more and you start to want what is uncommon. You start to want to settle less for anything other than the most that God has for you. And that is the uncommon mindset that leads to the uncommon life. Yeah. I think a common mindset that you walk into Christianity with is how can I keep as much of my old life with me? Yeah. Right. Going forward in a relationship with Jesus, I had a girl reach out and she's like, can you help me navigate conversations with a lot of people who psychedelics is a huge part of their life or a part of their life and very common in the circle they're in. Yeah. Now they're walking in a relationship with Christ or they're considering or like trying to navigate Christianity. And they kind of just have, it's like, well, there's not a Bible verse that specifically says, don't do psychedelics, so they can justify it. Like we can do gymnastics with scripture and try to justify those things. How do we have that conversation? And I'll let you guys speak into that. But that is such an example of a very common thing now that people want to bring with them. There's scripture, I think, that speaks directly to something like that. If someone's looking for a quick answer of like, there's scripture that says that we're supposed to be obedient to the law we live under in Romans. And a lot of that stuff is not legal. And whether people agree with that or not is not the point. Right. There was a lot of things in Rome that Christians didn't agree with, right? Yeah. Right. And yet we're still called to be obedient citizens. Right. Yeah, and then there's also scripture where it says, be alert and sober-minded. Right. And people can justify and say like, well, I met God through that. Or that's where I have spiritual experiences and stuff. I think that is the enemy's playground. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because you can get a counterfeit, or maybe there's a spiritual experience you have that's like, oh, crap, I need to go find God. Like, okay, cool. Like, God can use anything, but I don't think he wants you on psychedelics to go find him because you don't need that.
And that lack of sobriety in your mind over time, and this has been like, alcohol all through high school and college and into adulthood, this battle in my life of it used to be like, get as drunk as you can. And you see all this stuff that leads to in your life, and towing that line and trying to figure out like, how can I do this? And it's like asking the wrong questions all the time of how can I just use this enough or just to that line, instead of like, am I stewarding this in a way?
Right.
Or is this something that I should steward at all? So to the psychedelic question, back to that, I think there's a justification right now of a very common thing, and an uncommon answer to that is to go, you got to walk away from that.
Yeah.
Because you will start to see darker and darker experiences there. The enemy will get into your mind and get footholds in your life that become strongholds very, very fast.
Oh yeah.
And so the common thing is to go, well, there's not a Bible verse, and I feel like people can have spiritual experiences, so I'm going to keep doing this. And I think that just goes against what God would say to you if you actually brought that to him and said, can this come with me? And that's what I think ultimately, it becomes very rules focused. But I think when it comes to this question of uncommon versus common practices and things in our life, it's like we decide to enter a relationship with Jesus, like walking into a room with all these different bags and going, can this one come with? What about this one? I really like this one. I really want to bring this one. And him just looking at things going, a lot of that stuff, if you really want to go live this life, you don't need that, first of all.
Totally.
Let's leave that back here.
Yeah.
That's the old way. That's the old life. You don't need that. That's common stuff. Let me give you some new bags.
Right.
And that's one of the points this girl made. She's like, I just feel like, man, we don't need any of that other stuff to access God because we have the Holy Spirit. And it's like, that's the answer right there. And that's far more uncommon. And that's going to lead you into such an uncommon life to actually access God's Spirit in your life than rely on things of this world that can give you a counterfeit version of that.
That's so good.
That's so good, man. I say yes and amen to all of that. And now to the person listening going, no, but I experience God more when I'm on these psychedelics. First, there's obviously the law of diminishing returns there. We know that. It's a counterfeit version of it. But number two, what happens to somebody when they get rich real quick? Like when they win the Powerball or the lottery, there's all these studies about how they lose it, right? Why? Because they didn't actually go through all the steps required, the journey required to get there. And so even if you think you're having a God-centered spiritual experience on psychedelics, which I would argue, but if that's your mindset, you're also skipping all the steps that it takes to actually get there. And so you're like, it's like winning the lottery without learning how to steward money well.
Before you know how to make a budget.
Contrast that with a person that made a budget, who worked really hard, who got promotions, who saved, who gave, who did everything the right way, and they come into money. You trust that they're going to steward that well. Same thing is true with the spiritual experience. It's possible to have those types of experiences, but it requires fasting, and it requires saying no to the common things of this world, and it requires the long game of learning how to sit in silence for extended periods of time and learning how to let your body be a temple of the Holy Spirit and meet God at that place. And when you get to it that way, you're actually able to steward it in a long-term way, as opposed to just needing another hit or another pill or another thing to smoke or whatever it is. And so, man, go the natural way. I guess it's the supernatural way, but let the Holy Spirit lead you into those experiences. Don't take shortcuts.
That's good.
That's really good. Yeah, as our friend Chad once said about the Israelites' journey through the wilderness, because they ate manna in the wilderness, and everybody wants the milk and honey of the promised land. And you should. Like, that's a great motivation.
Sure.
But if you get milk and honey too soon, it'll make you sick. You can't handle the blessing. Because you can't steward it, because it takes character, integrity, and discipline in order to steward the promised land and the milk and honey, or else it will make you sick and destroy you faster than you think. It's like Chutes and Ladders. You know that board game? We have that at home right now. And the big ladder that you want to get that so you can take the shortcut and bypass everything, but it sets you up right before the big chute that takes you all the way back down. Yeah, I feel like that's everybody wants that big ladder because I want to skip all the steps because we all just kind of assume I have uncommon character, so I can handle uncommon blessing.
Yeah.
And then we learn the hard way that we weren't the one person that was different. And going through the process to build character. Don't rush it.
Yeah.
And because I think you are made for milk and honey. But you need to be ready for it, or else you're gonna actually hate it and cause damage, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to motivations. I think this whole conversation is like the why behind wanting to live the life you're living. And you have like conversations with people, like there will be people from this, and I've had this conversation of like, yeah, but there's like new research and stuff with some of these like more natural psychedelic type stuff of like how it helps medically and stuff. I'm like, that's not why you're asking me this though.
Right.
Like you always can try to grab at something that tries to justify it. And that's, I think, the question deeper down of like, why is this so crucial in your life?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this something that you want to hold on to so badly? Do you truly believe this is leading you into an uncommon Christ-like walk?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this a common thing that you want to keep around in your life?
Here's a general rule of thumb. Anytime you're trying to turn your pastor into a doctor, you've got something else going on. This happened in 2020 with the vaccine. Should we get it? Should we not? Like, I didn't go to medical school. And it's the same thing in this conversation. Where it's like, but tell us, right? Let's explore the deeper thing going on.
Good. That's so good. Yeah.
Ryan, great line.
The amount of times people have told me about medicinal marijuana because of my chronic headaches and neck pain.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Because I've read a lot of great things about it. And I also know, you know, there's that one more Bible verse that says just because it's permissible does not mean it's beneficial.
Yeah.
And it could be beneficial for somebody else. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for me, that's why you really have to be honest about yourself and not think too highly of what you can handle.
Yeah.
Good.
And the more sober you can be about what you can steward and what's beneficial for you. I know, like, I won't go down that road. I won't see a doctor about getting a prescription for it. That's not for me. Yeah. Maybe somebody else can handle that. I can't handle that. Yeah, right. That will become something that eventually turns into a fast addiction that I now need. Yeah. And I just know myself too well. Yeah. And so maybe that's something that for somebody is not necessarily a sinful thing. And I know for me, that's where you have to know God. And you have to have that personal relationship where you also can know yourself and know he's saying, hey, buddy, that's not for you. Don't touch that.
That's great.
Yeah. Sometimes the uncommon decision is to choose something that's a harder path.
Yeah.
But a better path.
Correct.
Instead of easier.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say is I think it's also important for us as Christians to articulate the why behind our decisions. I've been around Christians. I remember that when it came to like watching movies and stuff, it was very much like, we don't watch R-rated movies. I'm like, okay, interesting. Why? It's like, well, because Hollywood is all evil and corrupt and we just don't let that stuff in. And I'm like, I mean, okay. Like I also think there's some brilliant creative people that are telling stories that are really inspiring and powerful. So I don't, you know, versus if someone goes, I don't watch that stuff because honestly, it just affects me and it gets into me. And like spiritually, there's some things that I see, whether it's violence or sex or whatever, that's very common.
Right.
But for me, it just doesn't fill me up. It actually just kind of pulls me down and makes me feel like I'm walking farther away. Like that content affects me. So just giving a better answer, I think is something that we need to get better at as Christians. If we're going to lead uncommon lives, helping people understand why we make the decisions we make and not just oh, because I'm a Christian and because the world's evil and all that kind of stuff.
Kayla, like, you did great with that. At the beginning of the episode, you don't watch that stuff because you know you're going to have a dream about it and it's going to affect you in that way. That's a great why answer. Why you're not doing things.
Yeah, we don't set ourselves apart just to be set apart. You set yourself apart, which is what it means to live holy or to consecrate yourself today, because tomorrow the Lord is going to do amazing things. But if you don't set yourself apart, if you don't first allow God to do amazing things in you, he's not going to do amazing things through you. Yeah. Because he can't.
Yeah.
And so you're not just setting yourself apart for the sake of it.
Yeah.
It's not just self-punishment because we love pain. Once again, let's charge storms because it's the harder thing to do. No, it's actually what leads to the why and the purpose and maximizes the uncommon life you're trying to live. That is why you're setting yourself apart from something that is common.
Good. So ask yourself the question, if there's things that you're trying to justify or keep around in your life that may be common, why do I want this in my life still? And if there's a storm that you're just kind of running from or staying in, why are you there? Asking those motivator questions and ultimately finding the why behind charging the storm and living an uncommon life is where it's at. So we'll keep talking about that. for weeks to come.
The series, man, it's going to be so special. It already is for our church. I'm really excited about it. And for everybody listening to Afterthoughts all over the world.
We'll just continue to pray for uncommon seasons for the Longhorns to a national championship and for the Buffs to at least a win against CSU.
At least this week.
So long.
Signing off.